Hey, it's Rob from Dowdle Family Farms, and today I'm going to show you how we set up our insulators and connect our wire to our posts when we're doing corners or termination points or whatever else. Because it's a high tensile electric fence, you want to have insulators that keep the current of electricity from grounding out on your wood posts. Now, some people use fiberglass posts, some people use all kinds of different things. We use wood posts for our corners, and then we use these porcelain insulators right here to keep the electricity from trying to ground out on the wood posts. Now, you may say, hey, wood is not a good conductor of electricity, and you're right. However, last night we got about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of rain, and so if the posts are wet, even though it's wood, the moisture can ground out a little bit, not much, but a little bit in the post. And when you have 300 acres plus dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of miles of electric fencing, it all adds up and will ground out very, very well. So what you want to do is you have an insulator right here. We use these porcelain donut insulators. We wire it together to the post. We'll show you how to do that, and that's how we connect them. Now, this post here is a corner post. There's no gate, so we only have one insulator that carries, that the wire travels through. Sometimes we'll have an insulator here and an insulator here, but when you're not putting in a gate or a walk-through area, just having one insulator and not terminating that central wire is fine. You may notice, so let me point the camera down so you can see one type of insulator that we use that's a little bit different. So right here we have two different kinds of insulation points. One of them is a donut insulator, that porcelain donut insulator that we use to tie the fence to, and we use just our standard high tensile wire and we tie knots. I'll show you how we do that. But we also, on the bottom line for pig fences, we use these plastic insulators. I don't like plastic insulators, prefer the porcelain. But the good thing about them is they're steel wire here, and they're made so that they slip. And pigs will root along the edge of the fence and push the ground up. And so if we need to raise this wire at some point, the bottom wire, we can easily just loosen the wire, get some slack here, loosen this, slide it up, and then retighten it. Don't do that very often. I don't do that with all of them because these plastic insulators do not last very long. But also we don't do it with all of them because these setups are about $4, $5, $6 a piece, depending on where you get them. And doing that on every wood post 3 or 4 or even up to 6 times adds up the cost. These porcelain insulators are very cheap. They're 10 of them is normally about $5.99, so they're 50, 60, 70 cents a piece, and it drastically reduces the overall cost of installing your electric fence. So I'm going to take you over to these posts and show you a few of the different ways we tie these porcelain insulators to the posts. These pre-made Gallagher insulators that are made out of steel cable slide on easily and slide off easily. But again, those are about $12 for 2 of them. And so now I'll show you how we tie these donut insulators as well. There are several different ways of tying the donut insulators. First, you want to make sure you have plenty of room to wrap and tie when you tie onto your post. Now, once you put a lot of pressure on your fence and tighten the wires down, it'll tighten all these things out over time. One of the easiest ways is just to use a fence tool like this. Use that slot there so that the wire can slide in and out, but it can't come out of the top. And just wrap it like that. Now what's really important is a lot of times people will wrap the wire and they won't make real tight circles. It's imperative that if you're going to tighten your fence that you make as tight of circles as you can. Preferably as you wrap it around, you'll notice that each of these wraps is adjacent to one another. And it's best to have a minimum of 5. I usually do as many as I can. So to connect the donut insulator, I usually, against the post, I use this slot. You can go through the hole, but that slot is what I found to be the easiest thing. And so what I do is I wrap it around there twice before I start to tie it. Then I cut that high tensile wire and pull it tight. And you can wrap it again with your fence tool. They make one of these little devices that helps, and it's supposed to make it quicker. I'm not sure that it does. They're incredibly difficult to keep up with. Sometimes the high tensile wire you get is kind of hard. Sometimes it bends easily, and sometimes when you try to bend it and tie it, it breaks. This batch that we got does pretty well. I don't like using this tie insulator. One, I don't have as much leverage as I do with a fence tool. Plus, I don't get it as tight of I don't get it tied. My circles are harder to get tied real tight. But again, if that's your thing, that's fine. But that's one tool that you can use. So hopefully you can see this, but I've got 2 wraps here. 2 wraps is not necessary, but it does help keep it from sliding cockeyed sometimes, and that can be a hassle to deal with. Anyway, because this is going to be a fence that has cattle on it, we need to have our waist-high fence. There is one more way of tying the fence that I can show you. I'm going to swap the camera around behind me and stand on this side to show you, just for filming sake. It is good to have tension on this end, but you can create a handle with your wire by just putting an elbow in it. And you can tie the fence like that as well. Just a heads up, it does put more pressure, obviously, on your hands. So you'll notice your hands are sore. Leather gloves will help eliminate some of that. There's also some wastage. But that's a pretty good, easy way. And in some ways, it's a lot easier than using the fence tool. But it creates more garbage to keep up with. And the garbage is not that big of a deal, other than it's hard to keep up with, and sometimes it will, you'll lose it on the ground or while you're riding around your pasture paddocks, and it can end up in a four-wheeler tire or a tractor tire. But again, when you're tying these, you always want to make sure, one, that you keep this from rotating. If you don't have a whole lot of hand strength, you can use a screwdriver to slide through there. But again, I found this to be an easy enough way of doing it. So use one hand to hold and keep your donut from turning, and to keep a little bit of tension on this wire, not much, just enough to keep it from slacking, and you're good to go. So that's how we tie them. I'll take you around and show you if you want to see while I tie some more and do it pretty quickly. So the insulators on these posts are going to be different, and I do not want to use the bullnose insulators under any circumstance. So all this post is doing, the fence will go this direction and that direction. So where the pigs will be, it's not even a 90-degree angle. It's about 130 or 140 degrees. This post just pulls back and gives them a little extra space because it follows the curve of the road. So what I'll do here is, in this circumstance, I definitely want to use these donut insulators because I'll tie and the wire will just flow straight through it. If I use a bullnose insulator, and if it's tied like this, and if it flows through there, it'll still work, but it's really works a lot more effectively the way these insulators are designed. It works a lot more effectively if they terminate rather than just flow through. So again, I could use these if I had to, but these donut insulators are much more effective.